Right, in this video we're going to look to answer a typical GCSE question involving surds, but specifically rationalizing the denominator. So by rationalizing the denominator, we want to get rid of this surd in our denominator. Before we answer this question, one or two things we need to recap first to make sure we're okay with it. First being that if I have got a surd root 50, we don't know what the square root of 50 is, but we can simplify this. So it becomes root 25 multiplied by 2. Now I got the 25 and the 2 from listing the factor pairs of 50, but specifically looking for a square number. And not just any square number, but the biggest square number that's a factor of 50. 1 is a square number, so I could use that and the 50, but 25 is also a square number, and it's the biggest square number that divides into 50 evenly, so I will use the 2 and the 25 to express 50. Now from here we can rewrite this as root 25 multiplied by root 2. So just note that if we're going the other way, if I've got root 25 times root 2, that would give me eventually root 50. But it's this direction we're going with it, so we need to simplify this even further. Root 25 is 5, root 2 we don't know, so we can write it as 5 root 2. The other thing which I've kind of alluded to now is we've got square root of 2 multiplied by square root of 50. So to solve this, a bit like with fractions, we don't really need to adjust anything. We just go ahead and multiply. So it is going to be root 2 multiplied by 50. 2 times 50 is 100, so you've got root 100. And we do know what root 100 is. It's the square root of 100, which is 10. And that's that one complete. Right, I think that's enough to get us started on this question. So, I did mention now we need to rationalize the denominator. To do that, we use the conjugate of this. And all that means is we need to change this sign here. So from a negative to a positive. So we've got in our numerator 7 root 162. The denominator is the same, it's 1 minus root 2. But I'm going to multiply it by 1 plus root 2. And make sure you put it in brackets, because everything in this bracket needs to be multiplied by everything in that bracket. But if I'm multiplying the denominator by this, we want to multiply the numerator by the exact same thing. So while I'm going to be changing the values here, the actual fraction is going to stay the same. So we're going to look at an equivalent fraction, but which doesn't have this root 2 in it. And I'll just put this in brackets as well. Again, sticking with our regular fractions, if we're multiplying fractions, it's numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So write it as that. We've got 7 plus root 162, and that is being multiplied by 1 plus root 2. In our denominator, 1 minus root 2 multiplied by 1 plus root 2. Right, now, double brackets, just like you would with algebra. We'll use the part or the grid method to multiply everything in one bracket by everything in the other bracket. So on the first one we've got 7 multiplied by 1, which is 7. 7 multiplied by root 2, which is going to be plus 7 root 2. Root 161 multiplied by 1 is root 161, 2, sorry. And that's a positive. And we're left with root 162 multiplied by root 2. And if you remember back to what we previously did, if you're multiplying surds, just multiply the numbers and keep the surd sign. So in this case, we're doing 162 multiplied by 2, which is 324. Keep the surd sign, and that's a positive. So that's my numerator now. The denominator, we have got 1 multiplied by 1, 1 multiplied by plus root 2, so that'll be plus root 2. And be careful on this one, it's a negative, so it's negative root 2 multiplied by 1 would be negative root 2. And we've got negative root 2 multiplied by positive root 2. So negative times a positive will give us a negative. Root 2 times root 2 is root 4. We know what root 4 is. It's the square root of 4, which is a 2. That was our step 3, expanding the brackets. At this point, it is worth noting that our very final answer needs to look like this. Some number A plus some number B with a root 2. So we don't want anything else in the surd sign other than a 2. So it needs to be root 2 the whole time. So step 4, we're going to do a bit of simplifying here. What I want to do is this 162 and the 324, I want to change those into something multiplied by root 2. So, yes, a bit of scrap paper. If I look at 162, we go with factor pairs of this. And what we're looking for is the largest square number. When I go through these, we got 2, 81, 3 and 54. 4 doesn't go into it. 5, 6. 6 will go in 27 times. And so on and so on. What we've got here is we've got our square number here. The 81 is what we're going to use. It's the biggest square number to factor. So we'll use 2 and 81. So in my numerator we've got 7 plus 7 root 2. Can't simplify that any bit. The root 161 can be written as root 81 multiplied by root 2. And we need to add to that root 324 happens to be a square number. If we simplify it, it'd be root 4 multiplied by root 81, which we'll see soon does simplify to be an integer. In the denominator, you will always get this. If you do this correctly, you'll have plus root something minus root something. These cancel each other out. So you're left with 1 minus 2, which is a minus 1. And now it's simply a case of tidying up the numerator. So we've got 7 plus 7 root 2 plus root 81 is 9 root 2, because we don't know what root 2 is, so let's just leave it as that, plus root 4, so square root of 4 is 2, multiplied by square root of 81. Square root of 81 is 9, so it's 2 times 9, which is 18. And that is being divided by a minus 1. We're almost there now. We're looking at some like terms next. So if you look here, we've got the root 2 and the root 2. These can be simplified together. Here we've got 7 lots of root 2 and 9 lots of root 2. So altogether we have got 16 lots of root 2. And we've also got 7 plus 18, which is 25. And this needs to be divided by minus 1. These are both positives. Positive divided by negative becomes a negative. So our actual solution will be minus 25 minus 16 root 2. Notice how I switched these over. I wanted this number first because we needed to write our answer in the form a plus b root 2. We've got the root 2, so a is minus 25 and b is minus 16, and that is the solution to it. When you break it down into smaller steps, it is actually quite simple, provided I think one of the main things you need is to be able to simplify surds. So looking at factor pairs, finding the biggest square number that divides into that number. And that is how you answer a GCSE question such as this.